seconds to do, and we'll start with the syllabus. Again, this is not current because this is last spring syllabus. I haven't had a chance because I thought it was going to be canceled and then it was added. So I haven't had a chance to update the syllabus. But the basic stuff here is true. It's not spring 2017, it's summer 2017. We're not worrying about mini-term. There is no mini-term this time. It is Math 238, Applied Differential Equations 1, 3-hour course. However, because it's summer and what's normally a 16-week course, we're packed into 10 weeks. So we're here more than 3 hours a week, but that's because of that. So that's why we're meeting, and of course these meeting times are wrong. This says Monday, Wednesday, we're Tuesday, Thursday, and it's 8 to 9:50. So it's not an hour and 15 minutes, but an hour and 50 minutes each day, and that's how they compress a 16-week term into 10. We just meet longer. So we're meeting almost 4 hours a week, not quite, but pretty close to it. And we do meet in this room, A255, the A building. It's this building, Bessemer campus. Y'all are here, that's fine. My name is Charles Fowler, if you don't know, okay? And my email address is this, cfowler@lawsonstate.edu, okay? Now, right now, I'm pretty far behind with email responses because I've been dealing with college students and doing all this. I haven't had much of a chance to look at my email for days. And then I was off for a week and out of state, and I was at a place with very slow DSL, so I didn't catch up on any emails then. So I'm really behind. Here's my phone number, 929-3449. That's my office down there. And you know where my office is. You found it. So you know, right, from last week. Okay. Now, I put this number here. You don't need it much. 929-6409 is my Friday number. Okay? Time out here, let me explain Fridays in the summer at Lawson. I don't know if y'all are all old enough to remember or would remember, but several years ago, the energy prices skyrocketed, and there was sort of an energy crunch. And at that time, we were trying to think of things that we could do to save money. Now, in fall and spring terms, we have Monday through Thursday classes, we have Friday classes, we have Saturday classes. They've even experimented some with Sunday classes. I don't think it's gone over too well. We have online classes too, of course. But they found out in the summer, very few people took the Friday classes, even very few took these Saturday classes. So here we were trying to cool this big, old, leaky, not well insulated building for 1 or 2 classes, or 2 or 3 classes or something. And it was usually a pretty big waste of money. So one of the ways, and especially when prices went up so high, so then they decided let's not do Friday and Saturday classes during the summer. We just didn't have a lot of interest anyway. We were having to cancel most of the classes, so they just decided let's do 4-day work weeks on summer. But they only do this for some strange reason, June and July, okay? So since this is still May, I will be on the Birmingham campus tomorrow at that number, okay? And is next Friday, let's see, what is today? Today's the 25th, tomorrow's the 26th, 7 and 26 is 30. No, next Friday is in June. So I assume that I'll not be on the Birmingham campus next Friday. I don't know that for a fact, but I assume that's the case. Now here's maybe an exception to that. Since we have Memorial Day as a holiday on Monday, they may make us come to work on Friday to make sure we got our 30 hours in next week. So I think I'll have to. So I may be there next Friday. I'll find that out sometime. Like I said, I'm behind on emails, so I don't know what they decided about. Then June and July, I'm not there on Friday. I'm here on this campus Monday through Thursday. In August, right at the end of the term, it's probably even during finals week, I'll be back there on Birmingham campus on Friday. So for tomorrow, maybe next Friday, and the last Friday in the term, I will be at that number on Fridays. Okay. Now, what are my office hours? These are not correct. These are the ones from last spring. Okay. I've already told you, Monday and Wednesday. I usually am here by 7:45, but I have an 8 o'clock class, so I don't usually put that down for those 15 minutes. Okay, the 8 o'clock class is a calculus class. It goes until 10:40. So I have 20 minutes until my second calculus class starts at 11, and it goes until 1:40. And then I have another big 20-minute break. I'm going to try to eat lunch, half of my lunch at the first 20-minute break and the other half at the second 20. Yesterday, that didn't work, okay? But, so then I have a physics class that starts at 2, and it's class with a lab, so it's 2 to 3:50, and then 4 to 5:30. And then at 5:30, I start my second physics class. It goes 5:30 to 7:20, and then 7:30 to 9. Though I think that class is going to move up to 10-minute, rather have a 10-minute break between class and lab, just go straight to lab, and then take 10 minutes off at the end, which will be fine with me. If I can get my other class to do that, then I'll have the 10 minutes between classes and not just between class and lab. Not that 10 minutes does me much good, but it might be a little bit. Okay, so basically hardly any office hours on Monday and Wednesday. If you catch me that first 20 minutes or second 20 minutes, that's about it. I seldom get back to the office on those 10-minute breaks. Most of the time I hardly make it on the 20. Okay, Tuesday and Thursday I have a lot wider thing. This class made, so we're here from 8, I'll probably be here at 8 until 9:50. So from basically 10 o'clock until 12 o'clock, I'm in my office, okay? I usually eat during that 11 to 12, but don't worry, I eat in my office, I bring my lunch, so come on down, we can still meet then. So from 10 to 12, that's my office hours, okay? And then from 12 to 1:50, I have a physical science class this afternoon. And then it's followed by its lab from 2 to 3:30. And then from 3:30 on, I'm free. But I don't know how far home it is, because I've got basically better than 13 hours on Mondays and Wednesdays. So that means my Tuesdays and Thursdays are going to be, on average, something like 7-hour days. So I don't know where my end time will be. I'll figure that out. I'll put it out there. I'll change this. These times it will be there. I'll also change it on my locator card. You'll see later. The Friday, 7:45 until 11:45, that changes. And that's Birmingham, and it's only tomorrow, maybe the following Friday, and the last Friday. That's all. That's where I am then. Course description. Now, I had nothing to do with writing this. No one here at the college did that I know of. This was done by a committee of the 2-year college system and the public 4-year colleges and universities in the state of Alabama. And they agreed if we do this, you get credit for it. And you're a transient student, right? And you're going to be transferring, so both of you are interested. An introduction to numerical methods, qualitative behavior of first-order differential equations, techniques for solving separable and linear equations analytically, and applications to various models, as in population, motion, chemical mixtures, techniques for solving higher-order linear differential equations with constant coefficients, the general theory, undetermined coefficients, reduction of order, method of variation of parameters, okay, with emphasis on interpreting the behavior of solutions, and applications to physical models whose governing equations are of higher order. Notice, this is not a sentence. This is just a string of phrases. Lots of semicolons here, no verbs, okay? And then it says the Laplace transform as a tool for the solution of initial value problems whose inhomogeneous terms are discontinuous. Okay, now, we're going to do basically almost all of that. Last term when I taught this, I could not get Laplace transforms in. We just ran out of term before we got there. And this being a 10-week term, and let me tell you this right now, I don't know if this is going to happen, but it could. Okay, 2 possibilities here. Number one, it's something like the second or third Tuesday in June, I know I have a doctor's appointment on a Tuesday, because Marcus, I think, probably has heard this. I have a mild form of leukemia, and so I have to have treatments about every 2 months. Right now, I'm on that regimen, so I have to see my hematologist, about every 2 or 3 months. Okay, and he only sees patients on Tuesday mornings. That's the bad news. The treatments I can schedule for Fridays, no problem. That's what I do. But I can't reschedule his appointment because he only sees patients on Tuesday morning. He's also a researcher, so he holds free his other time for that. So I know I've got an appointment. Now, I usually try to get them to give it to me later in the morning, because usually my 8 o'clock class is made. But when I was in there, last time I was there, they weren't sure what days and times would be available. They said, we'll have to mail it to you. We haven't gotten them yet as far as I know, so I've got to check and see when that is. If they made it for 11:45 is what you're, well, there's hardly any way it's not going to affect. Because when I have the appointment, I have to be there an hour early for labs. They take blood. And I have to leave here about 45 minutes to get there and get parked. Be there in the lab at time. So there's a good chance we'll miss some of the class. Now, if they schedule me for 8 o'clock in the morning, we'll miss the whole class. Okay, there's no way, hardly, that I'll be able to get here before class will be over. If they schedule me for later, we'll have class for the first part, and then whatever time I have to leave, we'll just leave early that day. If they schedule me for 9 o'clock, no way we can have class because I have to be at the lab at 8, and so it just depends on when they schedule me. And whenever they schedule me, it's going to mess up. If it's late in the day, it won't mess with, late in the morning, it won't mess with this class as much, but it'll mess with my 12 o'clock class. But I'll get back in time for that, so I'll let them know that too. So I know there may be a disruption one Tuesday in June. Now, here's another possibility, and it's not fixed yet that I know of. Last week or so, we were here for spring term. I received an email from somebody in the National Science Foundation announcing a meeting that was going on that sounded like it would be beneficial to the department, the math department chair. And they gave 3 places that we had options of going to, but we needed to take a team there of 3 or 4 people. So I contacted my bosses and said, this looks good, I would kind of like to go. If we can go to Spelman College in Atlanta, and the meetings are Friday and Saturday. Fantastic, I can do it. And it's sometime in June. It was like the 3rd week in June or something like that, late June. And then I got a message back or a phone call from the secretary to the vice president, who I included on the email. And she said, Dr. Crawford wants to talk with you about that meeting or something, or just wants to talk with me. So anyway, it took a while for us to play phone tag and get in touch with each other. When he did, he said, yeah, I'm glad that you're responding to this. We want you on the team. But we're trying to get the New Orleans meeting, and that one's on Monday and Tuesday. I said, but I've got classes Monday and Tuesday. Oh, but we didn't want to mess up anyone's weekend. Well, that just shows an administrator's worried about the weekends, a faculty member's worried about classes. Who has priorities? Well, never mind. Who has the money? They do. Okay, power? They do. So, but he said they still may not let us go to New Orleans. They may tell us to go to Spelman. I'm hoping for that, but if they do have meetings Monday and Tuesday, now if it turns out being the same Tuesday as my doctor's appointment, then I guess I can't even go to the meeting, so maybe it's not 2 Tuesdays, it'll only be 1. But, on the other hand, it could be 2 Tuesdays. It could be back-to-back Tuesdays, I don't know. I'll find out later. But anyway, I wanted to let you know. There's one other thing, and this is on the good news side. It's a good news, bad news situation. The bad news is Monday's Memorial Day, and the college is closed. There are no classes on Monday. The good news is it doesn't affect us any. We will still have class on Tuesday, so you can wipe off the sad face. You're happy again. Okay. So, what my point here, if I lose 2 Tuesdays, now, if I lose those 2 Tuesdays, I'm going to try to make them up for you. Probably not the same day, but later. Maybe later in the afternoon, or have a longer class, go 8 to 10. I mean 8 to 12, or something like that. So, or 8 to 11:40, so we can make up the class if I have to miss it because of my doctor's appointment or because of the meeting. So we will try to make that up, okay? So maybe we'll get more covered this time, but I can't guarantee it. Okay. Prerequisites for the course, Math 227. Yeah, I know you've had it. You've had Cal 3? Good, okay. Co-requisites, none. The textbook, now, you don't have one yet, right? And you have my old one, okay? That's why I came back bumming, this morning. And that's when I found out I did have a replacement text. It will be the first course in differential equations with modeling applications. I ordered in the bookstore that one because I didn't know they had the new edition. Back when we had to make the orders, we hadn't gotten this yet, or I didn't know about it if we had. So I'll be teaching from this one, but I'll try to keep in line with the 10th edition. Okay? You can probably do an ebook. I don't know for sure. What's that?
I was going to look for like a PDF file.
Right. And another possibility, if you don't want to buy it at our bookstore, you can rent it there, and those are a lot cheaper. But if you want it as a resource for later, you may want to buy it. It just depends on what's your major, by the way. Chemical engineering. You will use differential equations, but whether you have to go through this, I doubt it. I bet you chemical engineers that this is what you have to do. But this gives you the background so you know why you can get away with that. Okay, so it's actually 10th edition, though I'll be using 11th. Yours were 2013. This is probably 17. That's about normal. They do update about every 3 or 4 years. Graphing calculator, probably a good idea, but I wouldn't purchase one just for this course. If you need it for other courses, might be a good thing to do. Now, that's the other thing. When I do place the book orders at the bookstore, I say on that form they're required to have graphing calculators. The reason I do that then allows students who have, grant money or scholarship money to pay for that with that money because I've required it for the course. It's not really required, but it's a good idea to have in some cases. Most of the time you won't need it, okay? But please, and graph paper is up to you. Quite often we don't really do that much graphing. We'll do a little bit, but bring paper and pencils to class, okay? Or pen. I don't care if you use ink, but I'll make a confession here that you're going to find all too true later on. When I do differential equations, I do tend to make errors sometimes, and I prefer to be able to erase and blob them out with the ink. So that's up to you, whatever you like. Okay. Blackboard. I do not like this paragraph. Now, are you familiar with Blackboard? Okay. All right. So you know how to use it. Do you know how to get onto our Blackboard? You do. Fantastic. Okay. I was going to say, ask. No, you don't. Never got it. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. All right. I don't like this paragraph, but they will not let us change a word in it, and just about every word I think is a little bizarre. All Austin State Community College students must be trained in Blackboard and use Blackboard daily to gain access to vital course information, such as the syllabus, and you will read the syllabus every day, won't you? Saturdays and Sundays included. Absolutely. Okay. Sorry, I'm making fun of one. Okay. It's nice to always check on things on Blackboard, whether it's vital course information. Okay. Handouts. If I have a handout for you, I'm going to hand it out to you. Okay? I don't see any reason to put it on Blackboard, and then you have to figure out some way to print it out or something like that. Yeah. I'll hand it out to you. I don't really have many that I know of. PowerPoint shows. Okay? Unfortunately, this book doesn't have any. So I don't have any PowerPoints per se, but I do teach from this. And by the way, I probably didn't mention to you, this computer is a tablet computer. I have an ionizing pen. That means I will be writing on the screen, and that will be showing up. Not going to be pretty Blackboard, PowerPoints. However, this thing that I opened right here is a blank PowerPoint and a graph PowerPoint. That's what that is. That's what I opened earlier. And so that's not much of a show, but that's what I write on so you can get that. It'll all be recorded in Screencast-O-Matic, loaded to YouTube, and put into the playlist for this course. Okay. So they will, not very pretty PowerPoint shows, but there will be PowerPoint out there, but it's through YouTube. That's how you access it. Activities. If the college has any activities, they put them out, that's fine. I can't anticipate any activities I'm going to post on Blackboard. I mean, we come to class, we do our work. I mean, the assignments. Now, I know I'll put one assignment there for sure, and that's your research paper, okay? Now, I've got to make some changes to it, so it's not there yet. In fact, nothing's there yet. The syllabus hasn't been updated yet. Nothing's there yet. I will put the link to YouTube, and if I'll go with that. Okay. So, the one assignment I will put there is a research paper. Now, other assignments will also be there, but not written out like that one is. Because every section we do, or every portion of a section we do, at the end of the class, I'll say, and here, if we finish a section, I'll say, here's the exercises to do for this section. Basically, odd numbers, because the odd number answers are in the back of the book. I want you to be able to check your answers, okay? Or at the end of the day, if we're not at the end of a section, I'll tell you how far down in the section to work on those exercises. So the assignments will be there, but they'll be through YouTube video. You'll have to listen to the video if you miss class to see what to hear what those assignments are. Okay, announcements. If something comes up, either about the medical appointment or the trip that I haven't gotten adequate advance notice, I may put that announcement out there. I can't anticipate any others. There could be something could happen. Don't know. One summer I got someone for jury duty, and I had to put that as an announcement out there. Okay, but most of the time I'll have plenty of time to let you know in class. So I don't anticipate doing lots of announcements. The school may make announcements on Blackboard, so check it for that. But you can check this to see if there are any. But I'll let you know in class if I've got it. Great. As soon as you turn something in, I have the 2 hours after class to grade, and I have hours in the afternoon to grade. I don't know how many, but a few hours in the afternoon. Tomorrow, I have, well, if you want to turn anything in tomorrow, but maybe next week or at the end of the term, I'll have Fridays to do that. That will be the end of the term of that. I'll try to get your grades in that day if possible. Until July. Sometime after the 4th of July, they usually open up pre-registration. It's already open, but they put a big push on for pre-registration for fall term. That's our biggest term, our busiest term, and most people need advising. And the last time I checked, I haven't checked lately, but I had about 450 people that I was listed as their advisor. Now, they don't all come see me. Most of them register online. They're fine. But an awful lot do. Plus, I think I said I'm a math department chair, and I'm one of the few department chairs on this campus. Most of them are on the Birmingham campus. So therefore, if there's ever a student, say in biology or anything else, who likes to come to Bessemer campus, but whose advisor is on the Birmingham campus, the front desk always sends them to me. Just about. They feel like they do anyway. So I advise a lot of students that I'm not listed as their advisor. Like the guy who called today, I don't think I'm his advisor, but someone told him to see me, so he's going to see me tomorrow morning sometime. Okay. Now, this next sentence I really think is not a very good sentence. Failure to use Blackboard could severely damage your ability to pass the course. What a negative sentence. If I were writing this, but they don't let me change it, I would say the proper use of Blackboard could enhance your ability to do better in the class. To me, that's a lot more positive and closer to reality. The next sentence is almost stupid, okay? See the schedule book inside cover. Guess what? We haven't had a schedule book in years. Yet they will not take this sentence out. They don't ever see the syllabus. They do up the syllabus saying we have to use it, and you can't change it. They never go back and say, hey, that's stupid. Yeah, we don't have a syllabus schedule. So they leave it in there and tell us not to change it. Okay, students should always, I don't like this sentence either. Students should always check Blackboard announcement page prior to coming to class. Why would they say that? The only reason I can think of to phrase it that way is if implied here, comma, in case the instructor has canceled class. That's the only reason you should always check to see. Well, I'll tell you now, I'm not going to cancel class unless I absolutely have to. Absolutely. Now, like I said, I've already told you the two possibilities of canceled classes or shortened classes, and those are the only two I know about, and I'll let you know as soon as I know the times or whatever, I'll let you know well in advance. So you don't need to depend on that. If some real big emergency, like a traffic jam on the interstate, guess what? I'm not going to have a chance to go to Blackboard and put an announcement out there. We'll call and let Miss Jamie Glass, who's always here early, know, like I told her this morning and said, I don't know if I'm going to make it because I just put my battery in my wife's car and just had gotten in my car and I had less than a half hour to get here, and I usually allow at least 45 minutes. And said, I don't know if I'm going to make it in time, but I just want to let you know. She said, fine, thanks, I'll put a note up on the board. Well, I got here 5 minutes before 8. I came up to see if she had put the note. She hadn't. I went down and called and said, I'm here. She said, well, I was going to wait till closer to 8 to see if you made it. So I made it. So anyway, I'll call her and she'll put it there. But if I get really sick or something like that, I'm probably not going to say, honey, could you bring my laptop so I can put an announcement on Blackboard? Probably not going to happen. I'll probably say, leave me alone. Hopefully I won't get sick. Okay. I'm being dumb again. So, anyway, let's go to student learning outcomes. Whoa! I hate it when it does that. Okay. Students will find solutions for first-order differential equations, including separable equations, linear first-order equations, and applications of with various models. If you'll notice, that wording was taken almost, a little bit of adjustment there from the course description. And also, if you'll notice, you don't have a text yet, but let me tell you about the text. That basically is describing what Chapter 2 does. Now, what I think I'll do is start a little bit in Chapter 1. Because Chapter 1 is Introduction to Differential Equations. It has definitions and terminology. And since we're going to be using the terminology, it's a little bit different from what you had in calculus, though it's very similar. You need to know it. It'll also tell you about initial value problems, which you may have touched on in calculus, but you need to know what they're talking about with that. And then differential equations as mathematical models. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with it, but notice it does say applications of models, so I'll at least let you touch base with that. So I'll probably combine what we do with that into Chapter 2. Now, so far, is that the same in my book? Okay. Table of contents. Introduction to differential equations, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3.
1.1 definition and terminology.
Initial value problems, differential equations, mathematical models. Yeah, okay. Same, nothing's changed. I didn't think it had. Then we'll do Chapter 2. In Chapter 2, like I said, this. Solutions. Now, that does some things. We'll hit on some of those early parts, but notice 2.2, separable equations. And by the way, this is first-order differential equations. First-order differential equations. Separable equations, okay, 2.2. Linear equations, 2.3. This goes into some other things, exact equations and substitutions. We'll probably just hit high points on that. There is a thing on numerical method. I want to at least introduce you to that. We're not going to spend a huge amount of time with that. Okay? And then 3 is modeling first order differential equation. That's where the models come in. And again, we aren't going to do super a lot there, just touch on it. Okay? Students will solve linear equations of higher order. That's chapter 4, higher order differential equations. Okay? Including equations with constant coefficients. If you go down here to 4.3, constant coefficients. Okay? If you go to and undetermined coefficients, that's 4.4. Actually, it's 4.4 and 4.5. There's two methods there. I've taught using both of those. I think I like the 4.4 a little bit better. Okay? So we'll probably go with that. It seems to be a little simpler, more direct. Okay? And then it says students will use the Laplace transform methods to solve initial value problems with discontinuous functions. That's chapter 7. The trouble is, I can't guarantee we're going to get there, okay? And then it does say students will use numerical methods to approximate solutions. That was back in chapter 2, 2.6. So this will be combined with that. So, was that following your table of contents pretty closely? Okay. I didn't expect to see any changes. So how are we going to do this? What are going to be our competencies? Okay, again, chapter 2. Again, I may quickly talk about chapter 1 just to get you the terminology and that kind of stuff, but not much else. Chapter 2, first order differential equations, and when we finish that, you'll have a test. Oh, time out. Let's talk about this now. Would you prefer in-class test or take-home test? Really? Wow, what an unusual class. No, okay. Yeah, that I think works better. I cannot conceive of being able to make up a rigorous test that would require you to do what the course requires you to do that would be adequate that I could give in 1 hour. Okay? It just is really difficult to do. Now we have an hour and 50 minutes. I really don't even want to do that. So I will give you take-home tests. Thank you for requesting that. Okay. Then chapter 4, linear equations of higher order. Again, I'll mention a little bit about the modeling, but not really a lot. I probably will do all the modeling in that 1.3. Okay? And then chapter 7 is your Laplace transforms. And again, we'll try to hit as much of that as we can. We may not get it all. And in chapter 9 is numerical methods, which we will have introduced in chapter 2. So we may only do it in chapter 2, but if we get a chance, we may do a little bit more in chapter 9. In fact, in chapter 2, they refer to chapter 9. Okay. Your writing competency will be the research paper. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. And your overall competency will be your final examination, which, in the past terms, has turned out being that last test anyway. That's why I no longer say comprehensive final examination. I'll just say final examination. It may be this, whatever your last test is. When we do it, it'll just be, hey, everything that you've done up here, you're using down here. So it is somewhat a culmination exam, but it won't be comprehensive. I won't go back and get questions from these two. I'll just use it from the last. And I don't know which chapters will be, but one time I taught the course, we wound up with only 2 tests. I decided let's spread it out and do at least 3. The last time we did 3, it seemed to work better. I've never been able to get in 4 tests, especially 4 tests and a final. But the research paper counts as a test too. So let's do evaluation and assessment. What are my grading policies? The research paper is required. It's not optional, it's required. It will count as a test grade, but it cannot be dropped. Now, if I can get 3 tests in, or 4, the first and second, or first, or one of those, first and second at least, the lower of those 2, and maybe even the third, the lower of those 2 may be dropped if it helps you score. The last test, whatever the final exam is, the last test cannot be dropped. So periodically I have the students come in, oh, I've made an A on all the tests, do I have to take the final? Well, yeah, it's how I evaluate your overall competency in the course. So yes, you will need to do the final. it will count as one test score. So it's probably just going to be that last chapter test. Each assessment will be on a 100-point scale, and then based on your average, if you're in the 90s, you're A, 80s B, 70s C, don't go down here at all. Don't even think about it, okay? 60s are D's, and 50s and below are F's. Students are expected to attend all the classes for which you're registered, of course. You know, students who are unable to attend class regularly. And the reason they put this in, regardless of the reason or circumstance, not all terms, but periodically you'll have a student. But this was an excused absence. I think, wait a minute, you know, the reason we have to teach classes so you can get the information. If you're not here, you can't get the information. Now, sure, I record it, I put it out there on YouTube. That's helpful. You can't ask questions on YouTube, though. I mean, you can when you come back, but it's really tough to do without being here. So if you can do it, fantastic. But if you can't, don't let poor attendance drop your grade, especially down to here. If it looks like it's going to, then a better idea is to withdraw. Now, some people are on financial aid. I don't know if you are or not, but if you're on financial aid, withdrawal may have implications there. But guess what? They're no different from a D or an F. If it looks like you're going to make a D or an F, it's, to me, better to withdraw. Because if you make a D or an F, you've got to repeat the course. If you withdraw, you've got to repeat the course. So what's the financial aid? Financial aid will pay for you to retake it once, but not twice. So if you make a D or an F and you've already taken it once, they're not going to pay for it the third time. They're not going to pay if you withdraw the third time. If it's only the first time you've not repeated the course, they're going to pay for it, whether you've made a D or an F or withdrew. So withdrawing is no worse than a D or an F as far as financial aid goes. But a D or an F is worse grade point average-wise. Withdrawal doesn't hurt your grade point at all. A D and an F will hurt your grade point big time. So I don't know why they go into all this, but that's my take on it. But see your advisor, see your financial aid office if there's some issue. Okay. Now, they do a blurb here on makeup work. Okay. Again, I didn't write this syllabus. A lot of the things, I probably have modified this, but actually, with a research paper that's assigned early in the term, you turn it in whenever you get it done, and with take-home test, how do you have makeup work? Okay, if you're not here the day I give the test, whenever you get here, get the test and get it in, okay? I always ask that you try to get it in within a week. Now, there's two reasons I give you at least a week. Number one, you always have another class period to ask questions. If there's something you don't understand about a question on the test, then you can always ask, and I'll try to clarify it, point you in the right direction. Now, that doesn't mean, I don't know how to do number 3, can you do it for me? If it's a test, no, I can't, okay. But what I can do and will do, and by the way, the test questions are very similar to the questions that are in your sections and in the book, various places in the book. I don't try to come up with some tricky thing. I use the same type of questions that you see in here. So what I will do is say, find the question in the text that's not the same question. Okay, I won't do the same question. Find a question in the text that's similar to it, and I'll do that for you. And then that should give you the hints that you need to go. I'll try to clarify if I can, or work anything in the text. I just don't work the test question for you. Okay. So the other reason I give you a week is you always have a weekend between, before that. Some people who work, that may be the only time you have to sit down, concentrated time to do a test. So I always try to allow you a weekend. Now, as Marcus will probably attest, because he's been in my class before, I'm not super strict on this. If you need more time than a week, yeah. I want you to learn the material. The test is just another part of the learning process. So do it. What I do not want you to do is have the first test still missing when I've already given out the second test. And there's one major reason for that. There's many other minor reasons. One major reason. I can't return back one of you's test until the other turns his or hers in, because I don't want the correct answers floating around out there. Not that anyone would intentionally do it, but your eyes may fall on it and say, "Oh, that's the answer. Oh, let me check that." So then the person who did it first has a lower grade because they may have missed it, and the person who fiddled around and didn't do it winds up with a higher grade. That's not very fair. So I don't return it. Anytime you turn in the test and I get it graded, if you're still waiting for the other one to get it turned in, you can always see your test, but I just can't return it to you. So you can't take it home and mull over it and stuff. You can look at it, see what you missed, and that kind of stuff. So try to get it in as soon as you can. And the main reason, and that dovetails with still part of that main reason, I want to be able to give your test back on the first thing before you do your second test, so you don't make the same mistake twice. But I can't do that if someone hasn't turned in the first test. Okay? I hope that's way more than you need on that. Okay, remember you can drop one major test, not counting the paper and not counting the last test. Lateness, you may think this is a joke. No, I will try to be here at 8 o'clock ready to start class. You had me for 8 o'clock last term, didn't you? There are a few days that things happen and I don't quite get here in time, but most of the time, I think you remember I was here and starting pretty close to 8 o'clock. All the class later. Now, the first week of class is wacko, okay? I was surprised this morning I didn't find a single student stopping me in the hall saying, "How do you get to this class?" or "Where is this?" or room and stuff like this. Yesterday, I spent half the morning helping people find their classes, you know. And my first class was sitting in here. I said, "Look, I'll get here as soon as I can. I'm directing traffic now." Today, they all found it seems like. Okay. All right, staying on discrimination and harassment, I don't want to go into this in great detail. Let me just summarize. We do not tolerate it. It is never tolerated, okay? We don't want it to happen. I've been here close to 20 years, and I've not seen it happen. Anything that would be blatant discrimination or harassment. Now, I have seen some stupid things happen. We have an automotive program here, and most of the time those kids are perfectly great kids, you know. They're usually young, and they're usually male, not always, but usually. And they usually don't like academics. But we also get occasionally, not very often, all of the above, plus some kid who the only reason he's here is his dad's making him come to college. And he doesn't really want to be here. But if he had to be here, "Oh yeah, I like working on cars. I want to know how to work on cars." So he gets into it for not the right reason, you know, and he's not very serious over there. And I find out those are the ones they weed out too. But one term, I know the kid because he was in my math class, and he wasn't a very serious student. He should have still been at junior high as far as his maturity level went. Okay, but he was college age, so he was here. And one day at lunch, I didn't see this, but I heard about it. Okay, he just started walking across people's cars in the parking lot, and someone saw him, jerked him off of there, got him to the dean's office, and in a very short time, he was off campus, and we've never seen the kid again, as far as I know, okay? Now, he was given a fair hearing, but there's just not much defense for some stupid activity. Now, that really doesn't fall in discrimination and harassment because it was not indiscriminate discrimination. It was just, it was indiscriminate. It wasn't picking out somebody and banging up their car, but it was stupid. Now, let me also say this, because this is a topic, a more current topic. To me, this includes the concept of bullying. I know people talk about that a lot more than maybe they do discrimination and harassment these days, but it falls in the same thing. Now, I will admit this. I said I haven't seen it, but I know that people who are going to do something like this probably don't pick and say, let's do it in front of that instructor, you know. So here's what I like to ask of you. If you see or even sense or suspect that there's something like this going on, especially the bullying, harassment, discrimination of some nature, please let us know, because we don't want it on this campus or either campus, and we will take it and nip it in the bud. Okay? They'll be given fair hearing, but they will get a hearing, and it will be swift but fair. I can promise you that. Now, Americans with Disabilities. If you haven't noticed already, I'm hard of hearing. Okay, that's why I haven't said, could you say that again? No. So I'm a little sensitive to this. I would still do it whether I was hard of hearing or not. But, you know, to me, it's something pretty close to me. If you have any type of disability, it doesn't have to be physical like hearing. It could be reading, dyslexia. It could be all those attention things. You know, they have all these letters. I never can keep them straight, so I don't want to say them wrong. Any of those kinds of disabilities, bring your documentation in and get it to Dr. Renee Hernan on this campus or Ms. Deneen McCoy-Jones on the Birmingham campus. Here are the phone numbers. Later you'll have the office locations. I'll get to that. But it's your responsibility to provide this documentation. I can't even see Marcus back there squinting at the board and say, do you have a vision problem? Would you like to move up? You know, because guess what? The moment I do that, I'm discriminating against him because I've assumed he has a vision problem that he may not. He might just like to squint, or maybe he's trying to block me from view. I don't know. Yeah. So it's your responsibility to bring that to us. So let me get the bottom of this picture here, the locations. They just have changed this. That's why the type looks a little different. They had us add this, take out something we did have, and add this last term. So on the Bastrop campus, it's in this building on the first floor down in student services. If you came in that place where that curved desk is, the admissions desk, if you came in that way, you came around to the right side of that desk. If you go to the left side of the desk, you're going to probably hit her office pretty quickly. But you can go to the information desk or the admissions desk. They will get it. She's right close to that. Just ask for her or the ADA counselor or Dr. Herndon. They'll get you there. Okay? On the Birmingham campus, are y'all either ever on the Birmingham campus? Okay. Okay. It's in the Leon Kennedy building, second floor, Space Center, and that's where the ADA counselor is there. But if you're not there, don't worry about that. Okay, course calendar. Now this obviously is not correct. This was the course calendar for last spring. I'll try to get, I'm going to stop right there. Obviously this is not for this term. But most of the things on here, except Martin Luther King Day, for us is Memorial Day. And no spring break, but we do, or Honors and Awards Day, but we do have 4th of July, which unfortunately I think is either a Tuesday or a Thursday. So we are going to miss a day. Now we don't have to make up that one, that's a state holiday, but we will miss a day with that. So we might not be able to get to apply straight for the But all these other things, except for those, these are current for this. I'll just get the correct dates in here. So everything will be there. You can go to the website and look for academic calendar. You can see it for yourself. Okay? But I'll put them on here. And then the last thing is your acknowledgement page. If, when I finally get this corrected and put on Blackboard, I'll let you know. You can go to Blackboard, read through it, see all the changes I've made. If anything's confusing, ask me. If you understand it all and don't have any questions, you can either type your name here, type the date, and email it to me, or you can print this and sign and type your name, and sign and write your name and write the date and give it to me. Either way you want to do it. Okay? I'll let you know when it's done. Any questions so far on the syllabus? Sorry, I probably beat it into the ground, right? Okay. Sorry, you said yes. I heard that. Okay. All right. I don't think I need that anymore. I will get that corrected and brought up to date. Okay. Let's do next the research paper. Marcus has heard this before, at least 2 or 3 times. Okay. 4 times. This is the 4th or 5th, or whatever. We won't go there. Okay, here's the general instructions for it. You choose a topic. Any topic you want. There's only 2 of you. There's lots of topics out here. It could be a person who contributed to this. We'll run into several names. I noticed in the things I saw Runge Cutter. Who in the world was Runge? Who in the world was Cutter? Yeah, you got to go. Okay, all right. We might get into differential equations before the morning's over, but it'll be on YouTube if we do. Okay? You choose a topic. It can be a person, it can be a theory, it can be an approach, it can be a phenomenon, it can be an application, anything like that you want to write on. Anything that uses differential equations. What do you use in chemical engineering that uses differential equations? Well, rates of reactions. That was actually in the thing. It mentioned chemical rates of reaction. So there's tons of things out there you can choose. Pick one and decide. Okay? Or it can be an internet application or demonstration. Differential equation, I'm going to tell you a little story. When I was in college, that was an awful long time ago, I was very fortunate to have an excellent calculus instructor. We were on the quarter system back then. I had the same top-notch professor for all 5 quarters of calculus. I was so fortunate to have him for that. And he was rigorous. Oh boy, I was lost more than half the time. But he always was able to have it so well organized that by the end I could figure out what he had been talking about at the beginning, and I wound up doing okay in all his classes. And actually at the end of that 5th quarter, he actually finished everything that he was required to teach, and we had not skipped anything either. And so he said, I think maybe I'm thinking it was close to a week to spare. He said, well, since we've got some time, let me get because he knew all of us were going into differential equations next. He said, let me help you get ready for differential equations. And he was a very serious guy, but he thought well and had a sort of subdued sense of humor. And here's what he said about differential equations. Calculus is pretty much theorems, do it, apply it, stuff like this. He said when it gets to differential equations, boy, most of the time you just try tricks to see if they'll work. If they work a few times, you call them a method. So that's why it's not as cut and dried as calculus was. So he said that. So a lot of this is going to be sort of, where did that come from? Well, it's a trick. It works, so they call it a method, So if you find that the book's presentation, and frankly, I find that the book's presentation is sometimes not the clearest in the world. In fact, that next quarter, I wound up with probably the worst math professor in the department. I had one of the best, if not the best, and I wound up with him. His nickname was Death Ray. It was Dr. Ray, and his nickname was Death Ray because one term, I don't know what course it probably was, a calculus course, he had failed 30 out of 33 students. He was notorious. In fact, I think he got put on some type of departmental probation or something. And I thought he must be awfully hard, but that was the only time I could take it. I wound up with him. So I was scared. And we had a text that was one of the best texts I've ever read. I liked it better than my calculus text. It gave you a little bit of background, gave you sort of the reasons, had you do the stuff, had you do some things. It was a perfect thing. I mean, it was almost like a workbook. It was a text, but I could follow it so much better than I could follow the calculus book. I thought, this is so bad. So I was scared of the professor. So every night, and I had it 8 o'clock in the morning. It was 5 days a week, so I had it every night. I made sure I did that, the differential equation. I found out later why he was death ray. It wasn't that he was hard. In fact, he was close to senile, I think. He was obnoxious is what he was. He would start teaching, and you might say, you're doing the same thing. And he would every now and then throw out a question. And if he didn't get the right answer, he would then get into a rant about how you should have learned this in Calculus 2. Why don't you know this? I'm not got time to teach you this. And he would rant for about the rest of the 50 minutes of the class, and he wouldn't get anything covered, and the next day we'd go on to the next topic. And so, of course, the other people in the class were totally lost, okay? I had a good professor. He took a week, got us ready, showed us some of the early tricks and stuff, had an excellent book. I knew I had to keep ahead of him, and I had no problem with the course. I was very fortunate that way. But what my point for all that story is, this book is not that good of a text, as good as one. It's a good text, and several people use it and applaud it, but it's nowhere close to the one I had in college. I don't have a copy of that anymore. I'm sure it's not. It's still in print. I wish I had something equivalent to that. So if there is something in the course, and I can't imagine there won't be something, that you find this a little less than satisfying is how they approach to it. And even, well, I don't improve it much, okay? Then, if you can find an internet application or demonstration, a YouTube video, anything like that, that you say, wow, why didn't they do that? Why didn't he say that? Then if you want to write on that, that can be your paper, okay? You might say, well, how do I get a paper out of that? Well, first paragraph, what it was I wasn't able to understand. What was confusing me about it? You can write a few sentences on that. Then, maybe the next one, I went to and found several places on the internet where they did have things like this, Khan Academy or things like that. And they weren't really a lot clearer. But then I found this one, and boy, it made my eyes open. I saw exactly what it was talking about. That could be another paragraph. And then another one could be something like, oh, I wish they had gone a little bit further and told how to do this, that, or the other. That could be one. So you can get 3 or 4 paragraphs, I think, pretty easily. And all you need is 1 to 2 pages. So I think that would cover it, okay? So you can certainly do that you find useful to the class. Now, what I'd like you to do either this week or next week is write your name on a piece of paper and pick a topic. Start thinking about topics, either people, theory, applications, phenomenon that can be explained of differential equations or are explained. Or if you got an internet application that you want to look into, see if you can narrow down a topic. You can always change it if you either can't find enough material or once you get into it, say, I'm not interested in this, it sounded good, but it really isn't all that interesting. You can always change it, okay? So do that. Now, since that's just your name and your topic on a piece of paper, I hate for you to waste all that paper. And you don't have to do this. It has nothing to do with the research paper. But, like I said, I'm a department chair. And every now and then, and I have contact with a lot of students, either advisees or in classes, teach a lot of classes. It has happened, not as much recently as it used to in the past, but it has happened that I could get a frantic phone call from some administrator or some office on campus saying, I see that thus and so is in your class. We need to get in touch with them right away. The number in the system, we can't get through to them. Do you have a better number for them? Okay? Or they come running to my door and say, oh, stop. Or, they see me in the hall. I see such and so is in your class, same type story. And then if you want to give me your very best phone number, you can write that on that piece of paper too, since you got a lot of white space left, okay? If you don't want to give me a phone number, you don't have to. Now, I'm guessing that very best phone number may be a cell number, am I right? I thought so. Now, if there's a chance that cell phone could be lost somewhere or left somewhere or battery run low, or maybe you changed plans since they got it in the office or something like that, if you want to give me a very reliable number that's certain to get through, like Mama's landline or something like that, Is it? Okay. Okay, so that one works for you. So there probably won't be an issue. Do you work also? Okay. And we probably don't have that number. I don't know if we do. If there's a good chance that the time they're trying to call, you might be at work and maybe they don't let you use a cell phone. They may let you, but if they don't, but they do let you have incoming calls on a work number. If you want to give me a work number, you can. Look, I don't need them. The odds of my needing to call you are pretty slim. I've already know how to get in touch with you. But in case somebody can't get in touch, your mom's not home, something like that, then if you want to give me one, you can give me 0, 1, 2, or 3 numbers. I don't care, okay? But if you want to, you can.
And did you want that today? Or
If you know it today, you can. But if you want to think about it over the weekend, you can do that, or whatever. I'll take it anytime. See, I have an ulterior motive. I want you to start thinking about the paper now, okay? Because I don't want you to put it up till the end of the term. I hear too many really sad stories. Violin music breaks on my nerve. No. Now, you'll need to find at least one, but 2 or more are better, outside sources for your paper. Now, this book has occasionally, it'll have a blurb about somebody or about an application or something like that. That can't be your source. That can give you an idea what to write for, but you have to go outside the book to find it. Now, certainly you can use anything you can find in the library. Books, journals, magazines, newspapers, any kind of articles that you can find in the library, those can be your sources. Or, now this is a dangerous place, any legitimate source found on the internet. Internet has to be the most incredible thing that's been developed during my lifetime. And I think it's all been developed while I've been alive, drawing breath. And yet, 2 really big problems. There's probably more than that, but 2 that I focus on. Number 1, I think way more than half the stuff on the internet is total garbage. Okay? The second is sometimes we don't know which half. Okay? Sometimes it's pretty obvious, sometimes it's not. So if you are at all suspicious about something you find there, run it by me, and then I'll say, no, I've never heard of this person or this organization, and I don't see many references here. I'm not sure this is just something but someone's opinion. May not be actual fact. Or if I look at, oh man, that's great, yeah, they documented their work, yeah, good, go for it. But the textbook, again, is not an outside source. You've got to get something out of the book. Now, your paper, I don't want it to be a big onerous dissertation or anything. I want it to be 1 to 2 pages of word process text. Double spaced even, okay? I don't want to read single space. I want to, this is single space. That would be hard for me to make notes on that. I want it double spaced and 1 to 2 pages. That's all I'm looking for. Now, if you get a topic that you really love and you get real fired up about it, and you can't stop at 2 pages, I don't count off for it being long. If it's too short, you do lose points. If it's too long, not necessarily. Okay. Now, what do I mean by 1 word process page of text? Let me make sure I'm clear on that. Some students, I don't know if you would or not, like to use a format that has a header up here and skip a few lines and then a title here and triple space here, and then you finally start typing somewhere here. And you type from here to the bottom of that page. For it to be 1 page of text, it's got to go to the next page and go down at least that far. That's a page of text. Okay? So it's almost certainly going to be 2 pieces of paper. Okay? 1 page of text. At least 1 page of text. And shoot for something between 1 and 2 pages. But if you go longer, that's no problem there either. Now, I do want it 12 pitch or 12 point. Too small is hard for me to read. And too big, you're just taking up space, okay? So go for 12 pitch or 12 point font. I don't care what font you use as long as I can read it. I don't read hieroglyphics, I don't read Greek, I don't read Old English and that kind of stuff. Keep it something reasonable. Times New Roman and most of the word processors default, it seems like, that's what I see a lot of. This is Arial, I like that, that's fine, I chose to do it with that. Courier is one, old one that everybody, a lot of people use. There's tons of good readable fonts. Just choose one, okay? Try to keep the paper less than 2 pages. I've already talked about that. Now, you'll lose points if it's too short, but not if it's too long, okay? Now, I don't care what format you use. I already said some people use that. Pick one. A lot of English classes teach MLA, Modern Language Association. If you're familiar with that, you like it, you're happy with that, fine, I am too. A lot of scientific organizations will sometimes use APA, which is American Psychological Association. Early in the game, they came out with this format, and everybody said, wow, what a neat, clean, concise format. I want to go this. Why reinvent the wheel? This is good. So a lot of scientific things use that. Some don't, okay? When I was in graduate school in a research methods course, the professor in that course insisted we use the format for CBE, Council of Biological Editors, okay? Fine, I used it. It wasn't any better than the other, but we had, I don't care which one, they may not even use that anymore. I don't know, that was a long time ago. I'm a member of a couple of professional organizations. Seems like each one of them has a different slight changes to the format. I don't care which one you use, pick one, go with it. The main thing is be consistent. For instance, it's just a simple thing. You start blocking paragraphs, block all your paragraphs. If you start indenting your paragraphs, indent them all. I mean, don't be mix matching. I've actually seen people type along here in Arial, and then somewhere here it suddenly changes to Times New Roman. I can tell that. Why didn't you tell that? Yeah, you know it. I've seen people suddenly in the middle of a word go to italics. You know, you just hit a key and then you didn't pay enough attention to it to see you're writing in italics. Now, there's some times where italics is appropriate, but that one wasn't. And I've actually seen some things bolded that there's no reason for them to be bolded. Okay? So, what I'm saying is be consistent. Okay? Now, here's another format issue I haven't seen often, but I have seen it a few times. Someone makes a reference here, and then makes a statement here, opens a parentheses, and puts the reference here. And they'll put the guy's last name, or the girl, woman's last name, comma, date of publication. And then down here, they are making a reference to a very similar source, but a different source. And they open parentheses and put title of the article, comma, page number. If it was the same kind of reference, why are you using it? Well, I think I know what happened. Now, sure, if one of these is a book and another is a journal article, yeah, you reference those differently within the same format. But if they're the same kind of things, I think I know what happened because I've caught myself doing the same thing too. Up here, I've done this before, that's why I'm using my first person. I'll put the format that source used. But down here, this source happened to use a different format, but the person copied that format rather than the one they started. Look, I don't mean to use theirs. Use the one you chose to write under, and then they should be consistent. So that's just a dumb example, but I have seen it happen. Okay, spelling, grammar, sentence structure, all those things that English teachers take off for, yeah, I'll recognize most of those too. But guess what? There's no reason not to use spell check, grammar check. I think every word processing package has those these days. Use them. Now, especially toward the end of the term when people are rushing to type in a paper and stuff like this and get it to me, I can tell they did not do either, okay? Because they made some really dumb mistakes that I'm sure either one of those would have picked up. Also use good proofreading. And I had a really good English teacher in high school. I really liked her a lot. And I can remember when we were doing research papers, she told us this. Now, I'll use some of her very terminology. She said, get through with your paper early. And she said, set it down and let it rest, okay? Let it rest. Pick it up again several days later, like over the weekend or 3 or 4 days later, and pick it up and read it with fresh eyes. That's what she said. In other words, read it as if you're reading it for the first time. Because I do this too. Type. Yeah, that's what I want to say. Yeah, that's what I want to say. That's not good proofreading. Because guess what? You know what you're trying to say, and you chose those words to say it, and that's communicating it to you. Yeah, because you knew what you were wanting to say. Pick it up a few days later, and you pick that up and read something and say, what? What was I trying to say here, you know? I've done that. I mean, I've read emails before I went, I said that? Okay, no, don't that, please tell me. I spelled it that way? Oh, no, because when you're doing, I know what it's trying to say. I'll look over it quickly and it's fine. Later, I'll pick that up. I'll see that and say, oh, what a terrible sentence, okay? Well, at the time, that was my stream of consciousness. But when I read it later, oh, that's a terrible way to say that. So, good proofreading. Content also matters. Everything here sounds like it's an English class. It's not. I'll recognize most of the stuff you're writing about, most of the time. And if you say something that's wacko wrong, and I'm not saying you would, but let me do an example from another math class. I don't know how many papers I've had on Pythagorean theorem. And I've actually had a few that got it totally wrong. They put a minus on where it should be a plus or something else and say, oh, please. Or they give the date of Isaac Newton's birth as 1946 rather than 1746. Yeah. I know it's wrong. I've read enough papers about Isaac Newton. It can't be right, or, whatever. Most of the time, I'll recognize things that are inconsistent. I've actually, dumb example, had people talk about somebody and they give, first time they mention his name, you don't have to do this, but they chose to do it, and it's pretty common, the year of his birth and year of his death, right? And then later on page 2 or 3, somewhere down here, they have him dying at a different year than he died there. No, that's not being consistent. So, it's just slockiness. So content also matters. Now, the paper is technically not due until the last day of class. That's not finals week, but the last day of class that we have regular class, before final examinations ever begin. But please don't wait till then. That's why I'm wanting you to get a topic now, wanting you to start looking for resources now, wanting you to get started as soon as possible, because guess what? You'll never have more time to do it than you do right now. Do you have any other assignments yet? No tests? No projects? No. For the end of the term, guess what? You're going to have some. Okay. So try to get started early rather than late. And also this. I've been teaching here, like I said, close to 20 years, maybe more. I don't know. I can't remember what year I started. And I've taught every year. I've taught every term. Now, some of those are quarters, some of them are semesters, so either 4 terms a year, 4 quarters a year, or 3 semesters a year, every summer. I don't think I've ever taught, maybe never even taught 3 courses, well, 1, but that was before I was assigning papers. I did start assigning papers until maybe 5 years in, so for about 15 years or so, I've been assigning things. Every year, every term, and usually 4, 5, 6, one summer I had 8 courses. So, and some of them are big. Now, this is a really small class. Most of my classes, I'd say average 15 to 20, okay? I have quite a few more than 20, but a few that are less than 15, fewer than 15, okay? So, I've seen a lot of papers. Every class, science, math, whatever, they all do papers. And this is a generalization. It's not always true. Usually my best papers come in early in the term. And toward the end of the term, I usually get some really awesome. So they just sit down, do about 15 minutes and turn them in without spell checking or anything, and just really have lousy papers. Now, I've had some real dogs at the beginning, and I've had some great papers thrown in at the end. But the general trend is the other way. So get on the right path, okay? And try to get it done early. Okay? If you turn it in after that last day of class, you start losing points. Okay? I'll still take it, I'll still read it, I'll grade it, but you'll lose points on it. That's the stick. Here's the carrot. Now, I've got to change this for this before I put it on Blackboard. You submit your paper in the month of May. That's this month. You don't have a lot of time left. You get 3 bonus points. If you turn it in June, you get 2 bonus points. July, you get 1 bonus point. If you wait till that last day of class, which I think is in August, you just get your score. If you turn it in later than that, you start losing points. Okay, so that's the carrot. Okay, get them in. Now, I require something that very few other instructors, I think, do. I just like to students to do this. When you submit your paper, attach a single page from one of your sources. So if it's something you got out of the library, take that over to the copier, make you a copy of one page, that's all. You don't have to do a whole article, just a single page from that source. If you get something off the internet, print me a single page from that source. Now, if it's that computer application, that YouTube video, you can't print anything from that, and that you just send me the link. Okay? Okay. Now, any questions about the paper?
Would that be like the works cited page?
Yeah, whatever your format calls for. Some call for works cited, some call for references, some call for bibliography, whatever it calls for, do it. Okay, yeah. Standard type thing. Only thing that's not standard is I'm not requiring it to be necessarily a 5-paragraph essay. If you want to do that, it's fine, but usually that's going to run more than 3 pages, 2 pages, but that's fine. Okay. All right. Goodness, are we out of time? I'm afraid so. We didn't get to safety, so next time, oh, and my locator card. Next time, hopefully my locator card will be up to date. It's not yet.